Thank you, Jimmy, for this opportunity to update a little on the ILRI board meeting and to sing my ILRI swan song. I know it's not a time for me to reminisce, but as I have the floor, let me start by just introducing a little bit of my association with CG and ILRI. I learned of ILRI, in fact ILCA, from one of its founding designers, Derek Tribe, who tried to convince me to accept a position in Addis in 1974 or 5. And that was when I was happily researching livestock in what was then the remote highlands of northern Thailand. I didn't come. Thereafter, I followed aspects of ILCA's work and even asked ILCA staff to write chapters in a very simple book about working animals. A decade later, my good friend and then vice chair of ILRI, Jaran Jantalakana, and I garnered experts from around the world for a book on tropical dairying, which ILRI experts contributed to and ILRI kindly published, which led to international conferences with some ILRI researchers and others from around the world. Later, in the late 1990s, I attended successive centres weeks at the World Bank when donors and centres hobnobbed and did deals, and it was there, had I known then what I learned later, I should have realised that the donor-system linkage on which CGIAR was based was morphing into a donor-centre linkage, being the most important. Having worked in tens of developing countries and managed staff in more than 60 different countries, and having reviewed international agricultural research activities for Australia and development agencies through the 80s and 90s, I was nevertheless surprised in 2005 to be asked to lead the ILRI External Project Management Review. And after submitting that critical report, I thought I'd never be invited back. But I was invited back to join the board, and the rest is our recent and most pleasant history together, including the associations of ILRI with Australia, ACR and the University of Melbourne. That's enough nostalgia. Let me talk about the board. The ILRI board met last night. It is still a new experience, with the new system board members being members of what is still our board. I'll briefly relate some of the matters deliberated in that meeting, and then talk a little about the ILRI board over the past 8 years and some of the things that have particularly impressed me. The ILRI board meeting last night covered the usual programs, finance, audit and risk aspects, and aspects of the COVID response. The minutes will be posted as usual once approved. But we also heard from the EMT, the executive management team of the new 1CGIAR. It was a special session that we permitted for an update that we hoped would provide a context for the future. Some points are worth repeating as they reflect success in what we have been trying to do jointly to achieve for livestock research. I think I heard the executive management team representatives say, or at least imply, that there would be more support for livestock across the whole portfolio, that donor agreement to increases in funding up to $2 billion by 2030 still remains realistic in their view, and that centre reserves should not be used for funding overhead shortfalls, and reserves accumulated for livestock should stay with livestock. These are good things for ILRI. The approach of 1CG is cumbersome, and it needs to be worked through. We all need to help make it efficient. In my view, this means that ILRI should keep doing what it has done so well, sourcing bilateral funds, raising the profile of livestock, and emphasising health and climate linkages, among the other priorities. I see 1CG as the next iteration of an expanded livestock research that serves the marginalised people of the world. Let me also talk about ILRI and the board over the past 8 years. Over that time, the board has matured from something closer to an advisory board into a true corporate board. This is what ILRI needed for it to continue its growth by sourcing the majority of its own funds. It is a much more complex business than simply receiving money from CG. At the same time, it managed relationships. The board managed relationships with the CRPs, which back in the System Consortium days, you'll recall that some thought should control the whole of the centre program. In some centres this happened. Whereas in ILRI we sought cooperation and CRP reporting through the board. This worked well and would not have been possible without the right people in all roles. That period also saw finances rising in importance from a committee chaired by a partner from Price Waterhouse. This is quite a difference from just appointing a livestock expert to look after finances. That person had the time available for the role and was a model that we then used for audit and risk and even for increasing the profile of programs. We disbanded the HR committee where it interfered with management's role, and we made all committees of the full board. Everyone on the board fully informed, fully responsible, and made to feel that they are responsible. As I said last night to the new ILRI board, we had no freeloaders. Most important for the current era has been the board's deliberation over whether ILRI should join 1CG. In the end, the decision was clear. It had to reflect the ILRI constitution. That is what the board serves. The board considered the constitution, and that required the board to do what was in the interests of continued and enhanced livestock research. Having reached that decision, the board then formulated a strategy to ensure that livestock research was as well placed as possible in the new organisation. Means of doing this included such things as participating in as many influential groups and discussions as possible, resisting proposals that would not conduce to better outcomes, and also demonstrating the importance of livestock and the fact that it has been underappreciated and underfunded in the past. I'm personally gratified that ILRI management and our pre-October board members stepped up so readily and have been key players in designing details of 1CG. We may not be able to claim credit that the system board now contains 2 livestock persons out of its 8, but it's certainly a sign that livestock cannot be easily sidelined. Those 2 people, of course, are Patrick Caron from France and our earlier board chair, Lindsay Falvey. The future of livestock is as secure as it can be in these uncertain times. I said I'd mention what has impressed me in the last 8 years on the board, 6 of them as chair. Well, 8 years is an exceptional period of time, allowable under the Constitution for exceptional circumstances, and it was invoked to ensure continuity and reason in the negotiations that seem to have gone on forever in the formation of 1CG. For me, it has been an honour to be in this role for so long, and it's given me a clear idea of what works for and in ILRI. And the thing that has impressed me most has been the people. This includes everyone, people I've chatted with as they tended gardens in Addis and Nairobi, people who've delivered me as a package in secure cars, who have fed and housed me and looked after some of my strange requests, who have cared for me when I broke my ankle, who showed me ILRI's work on the ground in Southeast Asia, India, China, Africa, many places, and who have done everything to make the centre function and the board do its job properly. But in doing the chair's job, there are some people who are absolutely critical. And I'm pleased to say, without embarrassment, that I have enjoyed exceptional support from a highly committed board. And that included Jimmy as DG as a full member of the board until October last year. Jimmy is a DG who well understands the line between governance and management. Not everybody does. I reminded the new ILRI board last night that the relationship between a board chair and a DG or CEO is one of the most critical things for making an organisation function efficiently. And I was immodest enough to say that I believe Jimmy and I have had an exceptional working relationship. So again, thank you, Jimmy. Other board members have equally risen to every challenge thrown at them. Discussions in formal meetings and in impromptu phone calls at all hours have been respectful, robust and constructive. You should all feel comforted that you have such persons as Elsa, Martin, Richard and Lee Lin on the board, and also continuing to serve through the Board Advisory Committee, those people supplemented by Chanda, Jing and Judith. Board meetings and business between them also relies on an intelligent and efficient secretary who can generate minutes overnight among 100 other things. And I've been blessed with one who also understands livestock implicitly. No better person for that role could have existed for me than Shirley. Thank you. ILRI senior management have made it all work, enriched my life and my education about international livestock research. I hesitate to list names in case I miss one, but you have all joined our board meetings at one time or another. You've seen us in action, you've seen our faults, you've seen our successes, and we've all been part of the same journey to create this wonderful institution that I am now temporarily stepping back from. And I've been impressed by the formidable publicity machine of ILRI. Who couldn't be? The new board chair is Elsa, who has been vice chair for several years and has recently enjoyed interminable handover meetings with me and some CGIR faces. She'll make a great chair for these times with her positive approach to confronting issues. New times need new personalities. So I hope I've made it clear that it's ILRI's people that have impressed me most over these years. The outstanding publications and other impacts derive from people, and that is all of you. In fact, it's all of us. One of the board's jobs is to keep as much nonsense as possible away from the heart of the business of an organisation. Our business is livestock research for the marginalised people. One CGIR philosophies, ideas, experiments are something that a board and management tries to keep away from the day-to-day research activities, and I hope we've all shown some success in these areas. My association with ILRI and international research has not ended. I hope I've got a few years left in me yet. But some things in life never change. And one of those for me is that I see what we do as a moral imperative. Applying science to improve the well-being of those most in need is, to me, a purpose in life. And it's the meaning of philosophy. It is indeed natural philosophy, as I tried to express in a recent book. I won't go into that further now, but if someone's interested, please contact me. Livestock research is a ready example of natural philosophy in action. Thank you all for allowing me the privilege of chairing the ILRI board. It's been a boon to my life, and I hope it has been a useful period for ILRI. I'll see you around when we can get around again. Thank you all.